What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Arris Quinones, with Tim Conley.
What's going on, Variant Nation?
As promised, this week we're going to be talking about the first two episodes of The Mandalorian. And me and Tim have said it like countless times. This is by far
endless numbers of times.
Yeah, this is by far our favorite thing going on with Star Wars right now. Even the past several years, this is so good, so very good.
It's absurdly good. It's unfair good to the rest of what's been going on in the Star Wars universe. It's just been unfair. But you know what? I will not hate Jon Favreau for it.
No, it's just I feel like a broken record, but just give Favreau and Dave Filoni like movies. Give them their own trilogy, give them their own like everything. Just let them do things.
All of it.
Yeah. They just need to they need to be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars is what needs to happen. Dave Filoni, if they don't make him the Kevin Feige of Star Wars like pretty soon, I don't know what they're thinking. That is such a missed opportunity. Although there's plenty of rumors that, we're going to have the Filoni-verse of Disney Plus shows with the upcoming, apparently we're getting a Boba Fett miniseries and apparently an Ahsoka Tano series. So all kinds of good stuff in the future.
And let's not forget about Obi-Wan.
And Obi-Wan, of course. See, look at that. That's like, what, 3 more shows? Star Wars shows that Disney Plus is going to give us. I think Disney Plus is going to be the new home for everything amazing that's Star Wars.
It certainly seems that way, especially if they were, I don't want to say reduce the Filoni-verse to the Disney Plus, because Disney Plus, there has been no fall off in terms of the quality of the content.
No.
From, the Star Wars films to, what we've seen in Mandalorian. The new technology they're using to make The Mandalorian is absolutely incredible and has taken Star Wars visual effects to another place. It's made them, it's the capabilities that they have now and what they can accomplish on just a small sound stage. But the technology that they're using to create these scenes and these environments, it's all being shot largely, I should say, in camera. And it just looks insane. Absolutely insane.
In the volume, right? Yeah, it's freaking crazy.
So it's just so good.
So crazy.
And we're about to dive into the actual episodes themselves, and this will touch on some of the visual effects that we've gotten. But if we just get the Filoni-verse on Disney Plus, and then, we have a separate set of films coming out and trilogies coming out in theaters, that's going to be an awesome 1-2 punch. Either way, I would love to see Jon Favreau at the helm
for sure
of the Star Wars universe, and that's no hating on Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy's a talented lady, but we've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm not the biggest fan with the direction that Star Wars films have gone under her reign. It could have been better, is what I'm saying.
I think that's a part of the magic that Favreau and Filoni and just the whole Disney Plus side of Star Wars is catching right now, where they're doing they're not really doing stuff that's in the future per se. They're just filling in gaps or going back and telling you like, this is what happened before we got this movie or this piece of continuity. And that's the stuff that diehard Star Wars fans love. Like we love that continuity, that lineage, and we want to see it expanded upon and, be like, oh, what did happen, to Obi-Wan between this point in time and this point in time? That's why we love like the Clone Wars animated series so much. That's all that show was. It just filled in all, this gap that we're like, oh my God, we got this. And that's how Ahsoka came from. And then eventually, she saw Anakin turn and now she's fighting like her once Jedi Master, just all this crazy stuff. I love it so much. But I also think now for like the pandemic, it's like kind of best for us fans because we don't know when things are going to be normal in movie theaters again. So, productions are starting to ramp back up. Just really precaution with all the screenings and testings for COVID and stuff like that. So we're still going to get content. But now we don't have to worry about, but are the theaters going to be open? Because they're just going to put it straight to Disney Plus. So it could, for the fans, selfishly work out for everyone just wanting to watch their favorite Star Wars characters on screen.
At least for the time being, And we've got the High Republic stuff rolling out starting in, I believe, in January.
Oh man,
that kicks off, and I have to imagine that is going to play a huge role in the future of Star Wars, both on the big screen and on the small. Not to mention, of course, comics and books and so forth. But the way that they're ramping up, the way they're talking about it, the talent, the creative team they have around that, it very much seems like this is like where they're headed with Star Wars. Is everything being very focused around the High Republic. So I'd be very curious to see, again, we know Kathleen Kennedy was only signed on for another year or so. So I'll be curious to see, how it all rolls out, especially with the success of The Mandalorian under Jon Favreau and how they intend to couple, what they're doing on Disney Plus with the big screen. Because, eventually, we're going to get movies back in the big screen in some way. If the theaters can stay open, that is. But yeah, either way, it's exciting. It's exciting for Star Wars fans, at least the anticipation of seeing where this all goes.
For sure. So now we're going to dive into the first 2 episodes. So spoilers galore for the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. If you've not watched them, we're about to spoil the crap out of it and talk about all the things we loved so much.
Yeah, and of course, today when we're recording this podcast, episode 3 actually just came out this morning, but we haven't seen that yet, so we're not going to touch on that. We'll touch on that early next week.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me how like the hashtag has become Mando Mondays, but like I'm all about Mando Fridays because that's when the new episodes drop.
Right. Yeah.
All day I'm literally like trying to stay off like social media and stuff like that, just so I could sit in my living room once my kids asleep and watch The Mandalorian.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, we look forward to it every single week. That's probably the highlight of the week in terms of content, that we consume.
I'm so like nerdy about it. Like I've thought several times to do like Star Wars themed like treats. Like I'm like, how could I do like blue milk? I'm like, well, I'm not going to just like put food coloring in like milk. Maybe I could just get like a blueberry slushy from like the gas station across the street.
There you go.
And that could be my quote unquote blue milk. You know what I mean? Because the blue milk at Galaxy's Edge, it's kind of like a slushy anyway, right? And that's the official blue milk.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Just get real creative, Whatever, little food coloring, you got it.
Or make some vanilla milkshakes, and like you said, food coloring, boom, blue, done. There
what if you're lactose intolerant? What do you do then?
You got to go back to the slushy.
Go back to the slushy.
Anyway, the season 2 kickoff was directed by Jon Favreau, the man himself.
Jon freaking Favreau.
The guy who brought us the first Iron Man, Elf, a Christmas classic. A lot of people say, I would agree, he's a better director than he is even an actor.
Oh yeah. And he's an underrated writer as well.
The dude's just it's crazy. A lot of people don't realize either, but I believe he voiced Pre Vizsla for the Clone Wars. Yeah,
that's right. He sure did.
He's no stranger to the Star Wars universe. Sure, like The Mandalorian is like the first big thing he's done, but he voiced a pretty major character in Star Wars and Mandalorian history before he took on The Mandalorian. But it only makes it that much more fitting that like he played the guy who wielded the Darksaber only to like create a Mandalorian series.
But he's also voiced other characters inside the Star Wars universe. In fact, in The Mandalorian, he voiced the heavy gunner Mandalorian in the first season.
Yeah.
That we saw, which was one of the coolest things in the entire freaking first season. It was so freaking amazing.
What was the name of the woman who directed that episode? Because I remember being like, oh, dude, she's great.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And now you put me on the spot. Now I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But yeah, no, she actually directed 2 episodes. 2 of the best episodes. They were 2 among, yeah, exactly. They were 2 of the best episodes of the season. They were absolutely fantastic. And she killed that one.
For sure. Now, the pilot, this is okay, so before we get into it, when we talked, because we did this with season 1 last year, every podcast we would talk about the previous week's episode of The Mandalorian. And one of the things that I know me and I believe you too, that I was like, Boba Fett is not dead, right? Like they're gonna bring him back. You do a Mandalorian series. This is fiction. You could find a way to bring him back. Plus, his death was like kind of vague. Sure, like Sarlacc pit, got it. But like you could find a way to live in there. If like Indiana Jones and characters like that can find ways to live like these crazy traps, surely freaking a Mandalorian, Boba Fett, could find a way to not be eaten by this Sarlacc pit. So anyway, this episode, just getting right to it. We're gonna get right to the freaking biggest thing, which is at the very end of the episode. Because much like the pilot episode of season 1, at the end of that first episode, it introduced to us the child. This episode also had a massive reveal at the end, revealing to us that Boba Fett is alive. He is freaking
Boba Fett is
alive, which there's so much to talk about there, because originally when they announced the Boba Fett series, they're like, oh, it's probably going to be a prequel. But it doesn't have to be anymore. Like it still could be, but it doesn't have to be. So it can even jump back in time now. It can go like from present to past to present. Like they can do whatever they want. So,
now you got to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, oh, dude, it's just so cool. And the way
because now it's been years.
Yeah, but the way they introduced it was dope, because I wasn't really expecting it. Because basically in the episode, the Mandalorian is like, he sees that this marshal on this planet has Boba Fett's armor. And he's like, what the? And Mandalorian code is no, you're not allowed to have that armor unless you're Mandalorian. So he's like, I'm gonna have to take that back from you. Long story short, they work out a deal to kill this dragon. And at the end of the episode, Mandalorian does that and he gets the armor back. But we just thought that was like a fun tease. Like, oh, that's really cool that you got the armor and stuff like that. That's really, really cool. But no, it was a tease setting up for the big reveal at the end where it's like, yeah, the armor's here because guess what? Boba Fett's still alive. Almost as if to say, Boba Fett's gonna get his armor back and we're gonna have him back as the first Mandalorian that we've ever known of that was introduced to Star Wars.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes. And it was so good. And did you realize that John Leguizamo actually voiced a character?
No.
In that episode? No. Did you pick up on that?
Who?
He plays Gor Koresh.
Which one is that? The guy at the bar?
It's the guy at the bar. Oh my
God, the alien at the bar.
The Cyclops? Yeah.
Well, I did not.
He plays, and I'm listening to him. I was like, man, oh my gosh, who is that? And I could recognize the voice, and then I finally picked up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's freaking Leguizamo.
Dude, I love Leguizamo too. He's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, but going back to the character of the Marshal, he played by Timothy Oliphant. He did an awesome job playing that character, Cobb. Mm-hmm. Just so good. But when he walked in, you weren't sure. You thought maybe he was, because he walks in wearing Boba Fett's armor. So you're immediately like, no freaking way, right? Like, you don't know. You're not sure at first. You're like, they're just going to drop it on us like right there, like that fast, like right up front. We're just, Boba Fett's just going to walk in. And then quickly you realize, obviously it's not, but it was a foreshadowing. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the episode, after they go through this entire ordeal, hunting down this dragon, Boba Fett makes an appearance there at the end. But it was just done so well. And I especially loved because they revealed him and then they didn't even touch it in the second episode.
I know, which makes
you would think for like most fans it would just tick you off, but for me, I actually love it.
Because we know it's going to be a slow burn. Like, the best things are slow burns.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just like he just dropped it in our lap and then was just like, here you go. This is a little piece of what you got coming at you this year. Because we already know we're getting Ahsoka Tano.
Oh my God.
At some point, right? The first live action version with my girl Rosario Dawson. Mm-hmm. So we already know we're getting that. And then on top of that, we also know we have all of the story elements around the Darksaber,
which I am itching at. So that for me, like the Boba Fett thing, massive, huge. But I have fallen in love with the Darksaber over the recent year. So much so, like, because of Clone Wars, and we did an episode on it. So, I learned a lot more about it and stuff like that. I'm like, this is the coolest freaking weapon ever, guys. I'm like just itching. Like, we saw it for literally like 10 seconds at the end of season 1. I'm like, I want to see it in live action. It's because it's also, I love like how we still don't know, like, we know where it came from, but we don't know why does it necessarily look like that? And it doesn't look like all the other lightsabers and stuff like that. Like, how did it come to be? What's special about this kyber crystal that it looks like that? And why is it only one of a kind? Why is it this rare? How did they make it? So I'm hoping that this season of Mandalorian explores that a little more, and more specifically, how Moff Gideon got it, because that's a lot. And I said it, I think, briefly in a podcast we did a little while ago. You'd have to think that our boy Mando is going to get it by the end of this season, or just eventually. Like, he's got to be the one, right? Like, now that Boba Fett's alive, maybe Boba Fett, but I still would want it to go to Mando.
Maybe. I want to believe in my heart that he gets his hand on it.
Can you imagine?
Because you have to remember, you have to realize too, that the Mandalorian is not, Pedro Pascal's character is not a Mandalorian.
I know. That's what makes it better though, right? Because he's just been adopted by the Mandalorians, and is like, he is a Mandalorian, but he's not by blood. He's not a Mandalorian.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, so far what we know, because we only know a very little bit about the character, which is the character's actual name is Din Djarin or Djarin. Din Djarin.
Yes.
Right? Is it Djarin? It's Djarin. I'm remembering right.
It's yeah.
Try saying it 5 times real fast, right?
Din Djarin, yeah. We'll call him Din. We'll call him Din.
Yeah, good old Din. But we don't know that much about the character, his backstory. We've only gotten glimpses so far. We got a little glimpse of how he ended up becoming a Mandalorian, or being raised in the
and why he hates androids and stuff like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we only got a taste of it. So we've still got a lot more to learn about this character, who he is, his real full backstory, how he has come to fully adopt the Mandalorian creed and all of that kind of a thing. But now we've got this other character, Moff Gideon, who clearly played a role in his backstory. And they pretty much told us so and gave us a little bit taste of that as well in the final episode of season 1. So now, and the fact that it's played by Giancarlo Esposito is also so exciting because I freaking love that guy.
It's like Gus from Breaking Bad.
Everything. Yes, man. And he's good in everything he does. Every time I see him appear on screen in anything, I don't care what we're talking about, I get excited because he's so freaking good. So we have him playing Moff Gideon. And so not only are we going to get, I think their relationship to each other, how they affected each other's backstories and lives, is going to get interwoven with us learning more about the Darksaber itself, where it came from, the role that it's played amongst the Mandalorians, and what role it's going to play going forward, especially if it lands in the hands of the Mandalorian himself. Our buddy Din.
Dude, like that fight scene at the beginning of episode 2 where those aliens and creatures ambushed him and then he just goes to town on them.
Oh yeah.
Like I was thinking
that scene where he flips off the speeder bike was amazing.
In my I was actually thinking, I'm like, is this like Star Wars Batman in the sense like he's not a billionaire, but like in the way he functions and everything he does, I'm like, he's kind of like Batman in that sense. He's got the flamethrowers, all the gadgets, he could do, all this stuff. So he's like Batman just without like being, the Playboy billionaire. I'm like, I don't know. That's all I thought of it. But in any case, putting a freaking Darksaber in his hand, who could stop this guy?
Oh my god!
Because anyone, like in any situation, he's like, always prepared, or at least figures it out along the way, like with the ice spiders and stuff like that. Oh man. So
and we see a little bit more of that in episode 2, especially when he goes, I won't say head to head, but when he's having to try to evade 2 X-wing fighters.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's like across the board. And we'll get more into that. I'm not just going to drop that and just run. But we across the board, like you're so right. He has that same kind of hint of like, he is almost like a vigilante in the same way Batman is. And he's got all these gadgets and he is not unbeatable. Cause we've seen him get trapped and all, and put in really bad situations already. But he's a formidable force against pretty much anybody he comes up against.
It's crazy, man. Like, because obviously both of us have loved Star Wars our whole life, and I have a handful of favorite characters. You know what I mean? Like Darth Maul, I love. Obviously Vader, all stuff like that. Darth Revan, Obi-Wan, and stuff. But like, point is, like, I like a lot of these characters, like a lot. And this Mandalorian character, who's only been around for like what 2.5 years, has quickly become like top 5, top 3 favorite characters in all of Star Wars already.
Without a doubt. And he's not alone. You also have the child that falls into the same camp.
Just the Mandalorian lineage in general. I'm like, this is so, because Filoni is the biggest component in that. Like, it all really started like in the Clone Wars, the animated series, where he started fleshing out all of their lineage and stuff, and introducing the Darksaber because he wanted to introduce a weapon that could be, could stand up to a lightsaber and all this stuff. So, and then now with this, I'm like, dude, the Mandalorians are probably like, they're like becoming the coolest aspect of the Star Wars universe. like Jedis and Sith are awesome, but like the Mandalorians have that Batman effect again, where they're like more grounded. They're just humans with like tech and are extremely badass. You know what I mean? So they're the Mandalorians are literally like, again, the Batmans of like the freaking Star Wars. Maybe that's why I'm like, man, all Mandalorians, man. Because even now I'm thinking, I'm like, dude, I think Mando with the Darksaber could probably take on like, like Obi-Wan or something. You know what I mean? Like, probably not, but I know you're pushing it a little bit. Probably not, but probably not. But like in my fanboy mind, I'm like, I don't know, man. He'd find a way. Like Batman, he figured it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you're kind of touching on something that is a big part of, and one of the cooler parts of Star Wars mythos, right? Like as far as, previous to even episode 1, 2, and 3, where we learn the story of Anakin Skywalker and the Skywalker saga kind of began. the idea of the Mandalorians and who they are and their interactions with Jedi, I mean, they were fierce opponents of the Jedi themselves. And that includes all of the Jedi. So it is not far-fetched to say he could take on and, give, say someone like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, which at the time, I mean, the timeline is obviously off, but, a formidable Jedi, a run for their money. Now, obviously, a very powerful Jedi is gonna, So that's what I'm saying. Like that's a possibility, and because she's a formidable Jedi, but she, as far as her power in the Force, but she's not on the level of, let's say, a Qui-Gon Jinn or Obi-Wan Kenobi or someone of that level. But the Mandalorians as a whole, they gave the Jedi fits over the years prior to the Republic.
Well, it's kind of like just like what you said, because they even touch upon it in the show. Like the Mandalorians, or a Mandalorian, is like they're known as some of the most feared, hunters or just races in the galaxy. You know what I mean? There's a reason why everyone's like, oh, Mandalorian. Okay. All right. Like, because you remember in season 1, like when he would walk in and stuff, they would look at him because, the Mandalorians are mostly extinct at this point in time. But also they're like, oh, man, those guys are deadly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact, and again, this kind of goes back to your comments on, the comparison to Batman. A lot of it had to do with their technology. So they don't have the connection to the Force that the Jedi or the Sith do. So what they did was they leveraged technology and developed technologies that could counteract the Jedi's connection to the Force. Yep. Even the Sith, the same thing. Now, obviously, both the Jedi and the Sith ultimately were able to defeat the Mandalorians at various times when they really gathered forces. But still, the fact that they were able to be such a thorn in the side, it's kind of like the Lex Luthor Superman
for sure.
situation.
Now, hear me out. This is total spec. This is just me fanboying because this would be awesome. Like we just said a few minutes ago. As of now, from what they've shown us in season 1, the Mando isn't a Mandalorian by blood. Now that could change. But from what we know now, it's assumed that he was just, an orphan, a youngling that was adopted and into the Mandalorian culture, right? So since he's not, technically a Mandalorian, what if somewhere down the line they reveal that he has Force powers? He's one with the Force, and this mother freaker is a Mandalorian. That also can use the Force. And then, on top of that, he gets the Darksaber. He would become the most badass character in all of Star Wars.
I wonder, I wonder if maybe, I doubt they'll go this route. I wonder if they would somehow make it to where he's in the line of Tar Vizsla.
Ooh, like House Vizsla? That could be cool. Well, that would be because then
he is a member of House Vizsla.
Because then he would have claim to the Darksaber and he would rule them.
Exactly right. Yeah. I wonder if they'll go that route with it. I mean, that would be really, really interesting to see because, and it would make sense of why they're introducing the Darksaber, and, that would be interesting. Although Star Wars, I will say, Star Wars has been trying to move away. And they did it with the last film trilogy. They've been trying to move away from the idea of, only people from certain lineages can wield certain powers or, or have leadership roles. So maybe not, but it would be cool if we learned something like that. That would definitely be cool.
For sure.
But touching on, again, what you were saying before about how memorable and how big the character, the Mandalorian, has become just amongst Star Wars fan and in the Star Wars universe overall so fast.
Yeah, like in 2.5 years.
Yeah, just a very short period of time, what an impact this character has had. It goes, I think, even past that. And I think it's such a statement about the writing and the storytelling of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Largely Jon Favreau. This is Jon Favreau's baby. Dave Filoni has obviously played a huge role in helping him to frame it and steer it.
Yeah, I was gonna say he definitely has a big, because he's the encyclopedia. Yeah. He's the guy that's like, this will work, this won't work. This is what the fans are like. Maybe they won't like this.
Yeah, without any doubt. And Jon Favreau has even said like a lot of the things and the ideas about the Mandalorian have come out of conversations that he had and working with Dave on the Clone Wars and other such things. So Dave Filoni has played a huge role, but the show as a whole is Jon Favreau's baby, right? But it just shows you it's such a statement for the writing and the storytelling of those two guys because it's not just the Mandalorian. You have characters like Cara Dune,
yeah,
right?
She's dope.
Great she's a co-star. She's a secondary character, but she is an awesome character. She's a memorable character. Same thing with Grief Karga, Carl Weathers' character.
He's one of my favorite characters in the series. He's
cool character,
cool.
Memorable character. And my point is, and again, I'll mention the child again. The child being right there neck and neck with the Mandalorian character itself. Moff Gideon now, even that IG-11
IG-11
character
was
that
great.
The assassin droid. Every character, there's been character after character after character that once introduced on screen, you remember them. They stick with you. You think about them after you're done watching the episodes. You go back and you want to see it again. Even going back to the very first episode, Werner Herzog's character that he plays, the client, the former Empire officer.
Yep.
Right? When he's giving him the job to go hunt the child, right? Even that character, like he's an awesome character. You remember him. You want to see where that goes. It's just character after character, story after story, episode after episode. These are memorable. There's not a single one that you go,
well, he has one of the most quoted lines in the Mandalorian period. Like everyone quotes,
they used it for the trailer.
In the trailer, everyone quotes that line. What is it? A bounty hunter. Bounty hunting is a difficult profession.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just episode after episode. The writing is always good. The characters are well played. It's perfectly cast. Just across the board. Again, just such a fantastic job by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
I love that. And it's kind of crazy too how you could tell when people, like, I think kids are a good gauge of like when you struck gold, right? Because they don't care about anything. They just know if something is cool or not. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is cool, this is cute.
Without any doubt.
To that point, my daughter's 3, so she's not old enough to really watch this show yet, right? But she sees me watching it all the time or rewatching the episodes. And she saw Baby Yoda. She's like, Daddy, who's that? I'm like, oh, Baby Yoda. Obviously, we know he's a child, but everyone calls him Baby Yoda. We know he's not Yoda, but everyone likes to call him Baby Yoda. I was like, Baby Yoda. And she's like, oh, he's cute. I like him. And now she's obsessed with him. So much so, like, I found people chop up clips of all the Baby Yoda clips from the show on YouTube. And I just let her watch all those because she just thinks he's like the cutest thing ever. But I think that's like a good sign of like, again, kids will just give the honest opinion. Either they like it or they don't. And that you struck gold when like, everyone, adults and kids, are like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's basically their Baby Groot, but I think even more so. I think Baby Yoda has like taken the world by storm even more so than Baby Groot.
Yeah,
but just it's so good. It's so good, and they know too, right? Because like in the second episode of the series, there's an ongoing gag with the child eating eggs, right? And it's like, it happens like two or three times in the episode, and that's how the episode ends. And so much so that I was telling you this earlier, they already have a pop of it coming out, meaning they knew well in advance that this was going to be a thing. So they got a lot of smart people behind the scenes. They're like, no, this is going to be a thing. People are going to love this. We're gonna make some merchandise.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. About the kids. My kids are obsessed with the show, but it kind of goes to that point of when we were kids. The reason that we love Star Wars the way that we do is because we grew up with it, right? These characters stood out. They jumped off the screen at us when we were kids, and they stuck with us. And these characters, I think, have that exact same impact. And the fact that they're actually resonating with us as adults and fans of the original Star Wars for the same reasons. And the fact that these characters are having that same impact, are resonating with us the same, and even giving us that nostalgia vibe, right? Of reminding us of what it was like watching these characters on the big screen when we were, 6, 7, 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? It's both fun for us as now parents, but also it adds that extra level of now us seeing that same enjoyment in the eyes of our own kids. And their eyes light up when they see these characters, because again, it has that same magic to it. And it's just, you can't say enough about it.
For sure. Now, dude, let's talk about the actual episodes though. Because we're just geeking out about Mandalorian in general, but the actual episodes, I kind of want to start. I mean, we've been already going out of order. I kind of want to talk about episode 2 a little bit, because we talked about the Boba Fett aspect from episode 1.
And we did go over episode 1.
Yeah, the whole Boba Fett reveal and everything. The ice spiders. Now, some people are saying it's a bit of a filler episode because it didn't really push the story forward this season, which, okay, sure. I mean, we see Mando trying to look for more Mandalorians and stuff, but it didn't really go anywhere. So fine. But this was such a cool episode, whether it progressed the story forward or not, because one, Dave Filoni's in this episode as an officer of the Republic and an X-Wing fighter, which is my favorite Star Wars vehicle. Yes, I like the X-Wing more than even the Millennium Falcon. I just always loved that as a kid. Yep. So to see Filoni, the man himself, in an X-Wing, flying up to the freaking Razor Crest and be like, "Yo, guy, where's your stuff? Where's your radar? Huh? Where's that?" That whole bit was just so cool because like you said, the pacing is just so well done. Where there was a lot of like silence in that scene. Characters would say something, and they use the silence to get the point across, like, "Oh, this isn't going to go well." So you know what I mean? And you just see like the Mando like looking left to right when he doesn't, have the credentials that they're asking for, and they're hovering next to him, and eventually they're like, "Hey, switch to channel 2 so they could talk privately." And then once that happens, the wings open up, they're in battle mode, and stuff is about to go down.
So good.
At which point, like you said earlier, the Mandalorian starts, running, or as one of the pilots says, "We have a runner," and it starts this awesome chase sequence, which was, dude, like you said earlier, the visual effects. It looked those two X-Wings fighting the Razor Crest looked insane, and the sound design for this series too, because I have a Dolby Atmos surround sound. So, dude, if you're listening to it like on a nice surround sound, it is so good. it's just amazing. It's everything you would want. And I was just like a little kid again, like you were saying. It's just so cool to see like these the X-Wings we grew up with, and then even the newer vehicles like the Razor Crest, which again is becoming, or already is, one of my favorite vehicles in Star Wars, which is crazy because it's not even it's only been around for 2 years. It's I keep saying it, but it's so nuts to me that these brand new characters are already like some of my favorites, and they're not remotely old yet. And anyway, it just it's so cool. Like, it looked real. I'm like, oh my God, this is what if I looked outside, this is what it would look like if it was real. Like, so freaking cool. But ultimately the Razor Crest crashes, which leads to one of my favorite parts of the episode, probably my favorite parts of the episode, because and I'm sure a lot of
well, first of all, I think before we even say that, we have to mention how, and this goes to, everybody saying that this is kind of a filler episode, right? Like this is why I kind of push back against that, is because this episode introduced us to a new character, and it gave us some teases for where the Mandalorian has to go, but it also introduced this new situation with the Frog Lady, and her eggs and her husband waiting for her on another planet, and she's trying to save her lineage for her and her husband because it's their last life cycle. But it introduces this new character, and we don't know what role these characters are going to play in the overall story. So to say it's a filler episode, we don't know that because we don't know what role this is going to play.
That is a fair point.
You know what I mean? But that leads to, that's why they're out there, and he, when the X-Wings come up to him and like, "Hey, where's your beacon?" You know what I mean? He's out there because he can't travel. The reason that they catch up to him is because he can't travel at light speed. Because of the eggs that they're carrying, it'll kill the eggs. So they're traveling at non-light speed, which for him is a very dangerous thing because there's people hunting him and the child. So he's taking this risk to help this girl because she's trying to take them. That's the trade-off. She says, "I know where Mandalorians are, and I'll take you there as long as you will give us safe passage." So this is like a trade-off, and that's how he gets caught by the X-Wings and ultimately ends up crash landing on the ice planet, which is, I was wondering the whole time, is it Hoth?
I don't know. I mean,
have they verified that?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. That was one of the things that I was heavily wondering when they crash landed. I was like, is this Hoth?
It's an awesome ice place nonetheless. But all that, yes, so all of what you just said led to probably my favorite moment in the episode. Because I'm a big kaiju fan. I love like Godzilla, all those monsters, like giant monsters and stuff like that. And this series didn't introduce, because they have existed. We saw them in Clone Wars, and actually the ice spiders were gonna be in the Empire Strikes Back Come to find out, I found that out after watching. They were originally had concept art and were going to appear in there, but for X, Y, or Z reasons,
that's right,
did not. And they eventually made their way into the Clone Wars and or Rebels, and now live action here. Anyway, these ice spiders were the coolest thing ever because there was like the mama spider that was ginormous. Looks like she could fight freaking Mothra. So awesome. And that whole scene, again, just displays his Batman like ways as he's running out trying to save the frog lady and her eggs and the child. And he's all these gadgets. He's using his flamethrower, his hooks, his freaking. The most Batman thing ever is when he had the bombs, the 3 bombs, and he just chucked them back. I'm like, that's Batman. Come on, Favreau. That's just straight up Batman.
Dope,
but awesome nonetheless. And it was just
really cool,
dude. The visual effects, like it was actually because it actually kind of went into like a little horror aspect, right? Like where it was kind of like straight up like, oh, this is actually like. To me, it felt like. Something that's
it was like a cross between arachnophobia and aliens.
It felt very Sam Raimi to me in that sense, where Sam Raimi does horror, but it's like kind of still lighthearted. And that's what this was, because it was like scary and suspenseful, but it wasn't like dark where you're like, ooh, like shaking in your boots, So I was like, this is really, really, really cool. And it ultimately leads to Mando and all of them being saved by the 2 X-Wing pilots at the end, which is an awesome thing because they have this awesome back and forth where, he's like, yeah, you've done this X, Y, and Z things, and I should arrest you, but you also saved or tried to save one of our own. So since these are trying times, we'll let you go. And I thought that back and forth was like very well played. Very cool.
Yeah, and it also showed that moment also showed a little bit about the character, gave us a little bit more about the character of Din, right? Of who he is, because they say, like, you saved this person at your own personal risk. Is that true? Was that you? And he was just like, maybe. Right? And then they're just like, you know what? It's trying times, And because he's like, hey, how about you come help me fix the Razor Crest here and fix the hull? And they're like, yeah, you're on your own now. We helped you wipe out the swarm of giant spider aliens. You can fix your own darn hull.
This is kind of minor, but I don't know if you thought this was as cool as I did. For some reason, like the X-Wings having like headlights or some kind of search or spotlights, like a cop car or something like that, I thought was so cool. It's something so minor. It's awesome, so minor, but I'm like, dude, they freaking have like straight up searchlights or spotlights like police cars. That is dope. Yeah.
Having them patrolling the galaxy.
Because like it's a weird, like we always knew that like the rebel officers, they're basically, police officers of the galaxy, right? Like their sector. But this, at least for me, put it into a better perspective where I'm like, oh no, like straight up, like they have like their jurisdiction and they're guarding, each spot. They're literally police officers of the Star Wars world. So I was like, again, we knew this, but for me, it put it into a lot better perspective. And I thought it was just because it was kind of like the whole good cop, bad cop thing too, the way they played it out. Kind of, right? Where like Filoni barely said anything. It was just the other guy talking. So
you could tell like he was fulfilling some childhood dreams in this episode.
So good.
So he didn't, but he knows he's not an actor. So he's like,
just like, I want to be in an X-Wing and give me a blaster.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. He did his job. He did it well. And I'm sure that was like a highlight of his life doing that.
I want to know, because like you said, Favreau voiced one of the characters in season 1, but I wonder if we'll actually see him, either in some alien makeup or, in an actual stormtrooper costume or Mando costume, when we eventually are introduced to more Mandalorians. I'd be very curious to see if he gives himself a role.
Wouldn't you?
I mean,
what a freaking sandbox to get to play in, right? These are some toys that you just are not going to put down easily.
It would go into full selfish mode. It's like, I got this far where they're letting me actually direct Star Wars. I'm putting myself in it. If I got friends that want to be in it, I'm putting my friends in it. I'm never going to get this opportunity again.
Oh, and what a statement that is, right, of Star Wars as a franchise itself, what these characters in this universe means to so many people of my generation and even the generation before myself and then after my generation, is how many different actors will move heaven and earth and pull whatever strings they have at their disposal just to get an opportunity to be a stormtrooper. You don't even know it's them.
Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper.
I know.
Insane.
So
James
many.
Bond.
Jason Sudeikis.
Who?
Yeah, Jason Sudeikis.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
He did. Yeah, he did one of the speeder. The speeder troopers.
Was that
in the last episode where they were fighting about the child when they were keeping him in the bag? That really funny scene
where he punches Baby Yoda.
Yeah, and they're arguing back and forth. One of those was Jason Sudeikis.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
And it's like you have so many actors that just want to make a cameo. They just want to say it's just like a bucket list thing that they were in a Star Wars something.
It's awesome,
I mean?
and it says so much because you again, I didn't even know. So unless you recognize their voice, you wouldn't know because you're not going to see their face. So they don't even want the screen time as far as like look at me in here. They just want to be able to say I was in there.
Exactly. It's totally a bucket list.
Crazy.
Like I was in Star Wars.
Which that's another thing. We talked about this in season 1. But can we just talk about Pedro Pascal and how awesome he is at Mando without even seeing his face? The mannerisms, the voice inflections. We've talked about this before, but I mean, it's just he's great. He's great. You know, we need to protect him at all costs.
Yeah, I can't even imagine anyone else doing that role now. And you know, and that is a linchpin of a perfectly cast and well-written character. It's just so good. And the way that episode ended, episode 2, with them managing to get off the ice planet, but the Razor Crest is just jacked up beyond all measure, like it's barely huffing its way through space, trying to get where they got to go, and then it leaves us there. For me, like, I've heard several people say that they were, this was kind of a filler episode for them or whatever. I totally disagree.
Yeah.
It did not feel that way for me. I loved the episode and I loved the new characters they introduced. I loved the whole, bit about Baby Yoda eating the eggs and him having to stop him from eating the eggs at every turn.
Don't eat those.
Yeah. And because I think ultimately we're going to find out that there's something bigger to that. Like he's saving or protecting the eggs somehow. Maybe not, but it might just be a funny bit. But I think there might be something more to that because it was just, it was like he was using the Force on the eggs at the same time. I don't know. We'll see. But I loved the episode and I'm really excited to watch episode 3.
Dude, yeah. I mean, again, the first episode of season 2, introduced to us that Boba Fett is still alive and we see his armor throughout the episode. And then the second episode that we're just talking about here was just a downright cool episode where you got ice spiders, you have a lot of throwback to seeing X-Wings in the series, lots of cool stuff. So I totally agree with you. I didn't even think of the word filler until I heard some people complaining about that. So for me, I'm like, no, man, it was just an awesome episode. Like literally, I'm like, this is so dope. I think I've rewound that ice spider like fight scene like 3 times. I'm like, this is dope. I'm like, and when it's freaking like on top of the Razor Crest and you see like its weird teeth mouth like trying to bust in, I'm like, this is like you took Godzilla and Star Wars and mashed it together. This is amazing.
Yeah, and again, I really didn't understand the idea of like calling it a filler because again, they introduce new characters and new scenarios that are going to take us somewhere. So I don't know. I didn't get that at all. And on top of that, we got a new director to the series with Peyton Reed. And he brought you could tell he brought a new flavor to it. And that horror element. He did a good job.
He did a very, very good job. I think the point is we absolutely love this series and we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, without any doubt, man. Without any freaking doubt. It's been a long time since I've been this consistently excited about a show. Because even Game of Thrones, like in the last season, started getting frustrating because of the direction that it went. So it's been a while since I've been this excited consistently about a show.
No, yeah, I mean, well, there's been other shows that I've been really excited about, but this one feels kind of special in that sense.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
agree.
Just because it's like, especially with a lot of the disappointment. A lot of fans had with the new Star Wars trilogy. This almost seems like that whole like Dumb and Dumber moment where it's like you're totally redeeming yourself. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because it's just just so very good.
It is. And Bryce Dallas Howard is back for episode 3, by the way.
That's the next thing I was gonna say. That's the last thing I was gonna say before we move on to talk about some other stuff. But the fact that we're talking about this is getting me so excited, knowing that there's an episode currently waiting for me to watch because it just went up this morning. I'm like, yeah, but I could be watching it. Let's watch it first.
Yeah, man, it's going down. Once work is officially concluded for the day, it's the Mandalorian. It is.
Do you have like every Friday? Is it like dinner, popcorn, Mandalorian?
Oh, yeah, in that order. Yeah, it is. And my kids start asking, "Hey, Dad, what time are you going to be done with work?" Like literally at like 11 a.m. on Mandalorian day. Like it's the entire family is. My wife included. My wife loves this show.
It's so good.
So it's a really fun thing because I freaking love
it. It's the Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda even pulls in the women.
Exactly. Yeah. But it scratches my Star Wars itch. It gets me like, excited because I just love the franchise. And then it adds that extra element of like, this puts it over the top by a landslide. The fact that my entire family can watch it together and enjoy it. It's freaking great.
Yes, we love it. But now it's time to move on to some other news to talk about today. Big one up is Grindelwald. He's being replaced. Johnny Depp will no longer be playing him in the Fantastic Beasts franchise.
That's right. It was rumored for a while. There was, because of all of the controversy and everything going on with Mr. Depp. So it was something that could happen. But it for a while there, it was looking like he was gonna weather the storm, and they might keep him and keep him in the role. And then just recently, he lost a court case over in the UK, where he was suing I guess it's a magazine or some sort of an editorial columnist over there that had wrote that he was basically abusing his wife and that there was evidence that he was basically a wife beater.
Right.
And he sued them and they lost in court. And in court, they said that there was evidence to, justify what the writer said. So that, I guess, was the last straw for Warner Brothers. Understandably, again, if this is somebody who's beating his wife, I can understand, obviously, parting ways with that person. So it's not. I definitely don't fault Warner Brothers, and I can understand it's a tough situation for them, obviously, and from a business owner standpoint, it's like I'd rather not do business with somebody who's beating their wife.
I think this one in particular isn't so much because the word that'll get thrown out right away is cancel culture. I don't think that's this at all. Like this has been long drawn out, and it's kind of one of those things where even Depp, resigned with them. He wrote a letter and everything where he's like, no, I get it. You got a business, and this is just crappy all the way around. So
exactly,
so.
Yeah. And to Warner Brothers' credit, just exactly to your point of I don't think this is cancel culture. Is to Warner Brothers' credit, they waited a long time for the evidence to come out and for, to see, okay, what's really going on here. They gave him the benefit of the doubt because it is a complicated situation because it seems like both husband and wife were abusing each other physically. Yeah. So there was a lot going on there and stuff that's like, really, it's like nobody's business, but
Amber Heard was actually, for a while, Warner Brothers was thinking of giving her the axe in her role as Mira for the same reason.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. Because a whole bunch of crap was coming out about that. Both of them.
Yeah. So pretty crazy.
Oh yeah. It's totally crazy, but he is officially out as Grindelwald. Yeah.
So in a perfect world, I would want Depp to keep, playing this character. I thought he did a great job. He was awesome. And I was very curious to see where it was going to go in the next movie. But rumor has it that Mads Mikkelsen is going to be playing the role of Grindelwald. He's going to be taking up the mantle for Mr. Depp, which I think if you're going to replace Johnny Depp with someone, this could possibly even be a better choice. You know what I mean? He is a fantastic actor.
Yeah, man. When I heard this, my immediate, because, okay, let me start by saying I am a big Mads Mikkelsen fan. Okay. He's a really good actor, and he is one of the creepier character actors out there. What his role in Hannibal, I don't know if you watched Hannibal, was fantastic.
Just villains in general, like in Doctor Strange, he was great.
Yes, he played Caecilius in Doctor Strange. I was going to bring that up as well. But he also played a heroic figure as Galen Erso in the Rogue One film.
Yes.
For Star Wars universe. So this is a guy, he can do both. But when he's playing a villain, bro, this guy is genuinely creepy. And one of my issues with Johnny Depp as Grindelwald was Johnny Depp he's a great character actor, but he, in the last, I would say maybe 5 years, he's kind of been going into this, I don't want to say he's always Jack Sparrow.
I knew that's where you were going.
But there's always like a hint of Jack Sparrow in every role that he plays. It kind of got, I don't want to say that it's the same, because it's not. He does change it up, but it started having a little bit of redundancy to it in how he was portraying various characters.
I know what you mean. You see the mannerisms in there a little bit here and there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, having said that, I do think as Grindelwald, he broke from that the most. And it was really good. I thought he did a great job. It was super fun, but there was a little bit, a hint of campiness to it that will not be there with Mads Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen will match up alongside Jude Law if they do cast him. And I'm going to say right now, I really hope they do, because right now it's just in talks. Right. But him matching up with Jude Law as the younger Dumbledore, dude, that is going to bring a different element to these movies and a different level of, he's going to bring a dark edge to that character that Depp just doesn't have.
It kind of seems like it would be on trend with the Harry Potter universe in general, right? Because Dumbledore was replaced like 3 or 4 films in as well.
Right. And sadly, that was because the kid, he died, Richard Harris died. Yeah.
Right. Yes. But just in the sense that a different actor would be taking on a role that was already cast. You know what I mean? It would
right.
be like, well, okay, well, it happened with Dumbledore, so why not Grindelwald?
Yeah. And man, I'm telling you, it's going to be a big switch. If they do in fact cast him, it's going to be a much bigger change in the tone of that character than I think people realize. Because again, Johnny Depp is a great actor and he was great as Grindelwald, but he's also Jack Sparrow, right? And he's Jack Sparrow for a reason.
Why is all the rum gone?
Yeah, there's a lightness to him, like a lighthearted edge to him. He doesn't have like a really dark vibe. Mads Mikkelsen freaking does. That dude has a dark edge to him.
He eats people. If Hannibal taught us anything, he eats flesh.
Yeah, he played Hannibal for God's sake. But he also, even as Caecilius in Doctor Strange, he was awesome in that role. And it was a small role. But he's just got this really mysterious, dark edge to him that is going to really transform Grindelwald into a menacing character that I don't think Depp could have fully brought to life in the same way that I think Mads Mikkelsen did. And that, again, I'm not trying to knock Johnny Depp. He did a great job. I'm just saying, for me personally, I think Grindelwald needs to have a darker edge to him.
How many more movies are left in the Fantastic Beast franchise?
I think it's a 5-film run.
So there's 3.
So so there's 3 more films. Yeah. But this next one doesn't come out until like 2022 now.
So if he is cast, he would actually be doing the bulk of the work, because he would have 3 films.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He'll play the majority of the films. Yeah.
Because we don't even see Grindelwald until the end of the first one.
Right.
So
he only played in one.
Yeah, once film. In the film, which was the second Fantastic Beast. So that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be very different from the way, the portrayal that Johnny Depp, the spin that Johnny Depp had on the character. I think. Can
we talk about that reveal? Spoilers for Fantastic Beasts, but I mean, it's been out for years. That reveal at the end of the first Fantastic Beast, where you see Colin Farrell like turn into Johnny Depp. You're like, what the? I was like, oh my god, like how did that? Because in this world where everything gets spoiled online and rumors, I'm like, how did they keep? How were they able to keep under wraps that Johnny freaking Depp is playing Grindelwald? How is that a thing? Good on you. Good on you, Warner Brothers.
Good on them, because it was a shock to see him. I remember being in the theater, and I remember in fact, we all were there. A bunch of us went and saw it together, and you just had this universal like, what?
It's just like, wow. It's like not only did he change into a different person, you're telling me Johnny Depp is Grindelwald. Like that's a huge casting announcement, and they were able to keep that under wraps.
They did a great job with that.
Crazy.
But it's sad to see Johnny Depp go. But again, if they cast Mads in the role, man, that's going to really add. For me, I think that's going to add a different dimension to the films than what we even had before, and I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he will bring. I mean, he's an awesome actor, like we've been saying. Yeah, so fantastic. I think he will do just as good, if not better, at the role. But the last bit of news or just things we want to talk about today is actually some Snyderverse stuff. We're coming back to the Snyderverse, which I feel like with everything going on in the world right now. And after DC fandom, it kind of died down a little bit, but like people, we're getting this in 2021. Like this is because it's already shot. I mean, I know that they're going back and doing like 2 weeks of reshoots, but like it's still coming. First quarter 2021 apparently. So this is relatively soon here.
A lot of productions have actually been working. And there are several films that are actually that were on hold and so forth that are wrapping here recently. Mm-hmm. So, things are moving and their productions are getting done now.
So with that said, something to look forward to, but Zack Snyder, he loves to tease. Yep.
Zack Snyder's back.
He is all about taking to the social media and like just dropping like little nuggets here and there. It's like, oh, here's a storyboard of Martian Manhunter. Oh, here's a picture of Batman I never posted. And he'll do this like all the freaking time. But he's been kind of quiet for a while. Ever since the Snyder Cut was officially announced and we know it's going to be an HBO Max miniseries, he's like, all right, now I just got to work on the film. He's been kind of quiet. But recently, he took to the internet again to give us our first peek of Martian Manhunter. So essentially, he just pulled it up on his phone, put the phone to the camera, and showed everyone. So we saw it. So it's very low quality because it's literally, he showed it to us on his phone, and it's only concept art. But I mean, it's my boy Martian Manhunter. You could clearly tell it's Martian Manhunter. He's got the red X on his chest. He's got the green alien head. So I think he's going to look great. Which I'm a big fan. Like say what you will about Zack Snyder. I think his costume designs are great. Like all the costumes he goes with are awesome. He's, in my opinion, his Batfleck has the best bat suit, particularly the BVS one. I think that's the best live action bat suit we've gotten thus far. I like the Justice League one, but I think the BVS one is perfection. But even
you've been saying that for a long time.
So it's literally like ripped right out of the comics. It's like a hybrid of like Frank Miller and Jim Lee. But even like him being a producer and overseeing Aquaman and stuff like that. So James Wan's Aquaman when he got his green and orange iconic suit. Awesome. I even like the Flash suit. I know I know you don't, and a lot of people that's kind of like polarizing. But for me personally, I liked it. It kind of gave me that Injustice look. Plus, we know it's changing, and he's gonna get a more classic suit in his solo movie. But point is, I think Martian Manhunter is gonna look great. I think he's in good hands because his costume design and just design choices in general are pretty freaking spot on.
Yeah, I'm so torn when it comes to this.
You sound so defeated.
Yeah, I'm so torn when it comes to the Snyderverse. There are things that I love that I think that are super fun. And again, I'm not by all stretch. I think a lot of the stuff he does is super fun, and you always want to see what they're gonna do. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, like the Flash costume, you're just like, yeah, like the casting of Lex Luthor.
I said costume design, not casting.
Yeah, it's like, so it's like when he comes out with the teases and the things like this, sometimes I'm like, hey, that's cool. And then sometimes I'm like, you should stop. But he does love him some Vero. I can tell you that right
you know what, Tim? We're going to keep going then. Cause there's one bit, there's another tease he gave us.
Yeah, there is another tease one. Yeah.
So I guess he was, I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was an interview or something that he was talking to fans or press online. Point is, he told the world that he planned on eventually having Catwoman in his Snyderverse. And in his Snyderverse,
that's right, yeah,
Batman was married to and then got a divorce with Batman. Because remember, his Batman is an older Batman. You know what I mean? He's in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. He's an older seasoned Batman. So he already got married, got a divorce, and now his ex-wife is Selena Kyle, Catwoman. But he also...
Which is a strange thing, by the way, to just drop randomly. Right? That's just a weird bit of news and insight to how he sees that world.
I think it's on purpose because we're going to get to the end in a second. I think this is all like him like, hey, this is what I was gonna do. We'll just let me just keep explaining. So, so he says like, hey, Cat, I intended on having her in this universe. She was gonna be the ex-wife of Bruce. He's like, yes, she existed in this universe. She was the ex-wife of Bruce Wayne, but I also knew who I was gonna cast as her, which would be Carla Gugino, which I think is a perfect freaking pick for Catwoman, especially because she matches up exactly in age with Ben Affleck and the older Batman that he's doing, and she was just awesome because we saw her in Watchmen, So I mean, she's been in a ton of stuff like Sin City and countless movies, but as far as superhero world, she was in Watchmen, which Snyder also directed, so it makes all the sense, and it doesn't end there. So it's like, oh, this is something we would have got. But the next day, as of shooting this podcast this morning, obviously it's not going to be this morning when this goes up, but early this morning, he took to social media again, posting a picture of Jim Lee art of Batman head-to-head in the rain with Catwoman with their foreheads touching, basically, like in a loving, moment. That's all he posted. That's all he freaking posted. So it's like, we know, well, we don't know. We're kind of we don't know. We don't know.
We know that we don't know.
We can assume that his Snyder Cut on HBO Max is going to be very successful, and we could all. Yes. And if that's the case, every business is in the case of making money. HBO and Warner Brothers is no different. So if it's super successful, they'll be like, well, freaking finish it out then. Meaning we're going to get Justice League 2. And who do you think is going to pop up in Justice League 2 if that's the case? I guarantee you he's going to put Catwoman in Justice League 2, whether it's a flashback or not. It's like, why not? They're giving him the tools to the keys to his kingdom to do whatever he originally wanted to do. So if we do get a Justice League 2, I think we're going to see her in that movie. Or people are even saying this could be possible. If we know he's doing 2 weeks of reshoots with Ben Affleck, Cavill, and Gadot. Maybe, just maybe, there's some flashbacks in there or something, or maybe
or just even a small scene,
small cameo, and he's like, "Hey, just between Bruce and Selena," and we get her in there. So possibilities. Snyder's, being a DC fan, I gotta say, whether you love him or hate him, he knows how to tease and get us pretty excited.
I will give him that, and the reveal of Carla. That he would have cast Carla, because Carla, and a lot of people don't know this, Carla actually was connected to BVS a little bit. She did some voice work for BVS. So she was actually slightly connected already. So for him to reveal that's who he would have connected, because she's kind of a celebrity crush of mine from when I was a kid. She's been in a million things over the years.
Yeah, no,
right?
I think everyone would agree she is easy on the eyes, as one would say.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been in everything from like Sin City and The Watchmen. She played, obviously Sally Jupiter, Silk Spectre. Yep. But she's also been in, things like A Night at the Museum.
Oh my gosh, she has. Yeah. She was in that movie. Man. That's right.
Yeah, she was, remember she was in Mr. Popper's Penguins? You remember that movie?
I didn't see that movie. I didn't see that movie.
You didn't see that?
No, I never saw it.
Oh,
that's the Jim Carrey one, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But she's been, just going back to, she's kind of worked with Zack Snyder and been connected to that universe, little bits here and there she's done voice work. She did voice work for Dawn of Justice, and she did a little bit of voice work for Man of Steel. Now you would never know it was her. But she's been kind of like already kind of had her toe in the water in the Snyderverse.
I just think it's so cool that we're having, with the multiverse existing in DC live action in general now, we're getting all these different versions. So because as we know, we're getting Zoe Kravitz is going to be Catwoman in the Batman with Robert Pattinson Batman. So we could very well have, a Bruce and Selena, two Bruce and Selenas at the same time, which
is crazy.
Dude, again, like, I know a lot of people who are like, tired of this or not as big as fans as us would be like, oh, do we really need this many stuff? It's like, yes, we really need this many stuff. I grew up with this stuff.
2020, we need as much.
Like when I was a kid, you think I was like, oh, I can't believe they're coming out with another Batman cartoon. It's like, no, give me more Batman cartoons.
Yeah, really.
Like, no, this is just us living our childhood to the fullest in our adult years.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's. I'll tell you, if it comes out, if they act, because we know that they are going to be doing some reshoots. HBO Max apparently has ponied up some dough, and they are going to do some reshoots, and they're actually bringing in the cast. I have to imagine it at some kind of a discount because
it's at some kind of a discount.
Some kind of a discount. What? They're giving. they're offering the BVS discount and the Justice League discount.
Ben Affleck's like, give me $2 million instead of $5 million.
Listen. We fought for this for 2 years. I'm gonna need a 20% discount.
I wonder, like, contractually, if there's something in there where it's like they have to come back for reshoots, or if it expired because it's the same film, right? No, I don't know.
No. They don't. Yeah, they definitely know. Definitely know. But we do know that everyone that's involved in the Snyder cut of the Justice League, they have been. This has become.
It's a passion project.
Yeah, it's basically become a passion project for everybody involved at this point. This is something they just want to see through to the end and see the final vision actually, fulfilled. So, which I think is really cool, and it says a lot about how they feel about what they were trying to create in the first place.
Well, because it's not fair to the actors too, right? Because the movie overall was not received very well, especially at the box office, considering how much it cost. So they're like, no, that's not the movie I signed up for. No. Trust me, I read the script. That's not how it was supposed to be. So they want, just for even themselves as, actors, they want to be like, look, this is the vision I signed up for. So whether you love it or hate it, this is what I signed up for, not that other thing. So don't judge us on that. Judge us on this, because this is what we intended to be shot. So I think that makes sense being an actor too. Because if you're in a movie and you already signed your contract, you can't, if they change things, you have to follow through with it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they're changing things, but there's nothing you could do because you already signed up. So it just sucks at that point because you're like, oh, dang it. That's not why I said yes to this movie.
Yeah, really.
You know what I mean?
And I have to imagine there's got to be a little bit in the back of their mind of like, hey, we could be salvaging a franchise here, and that could be future work.
For sure.
He just had like Henry Cavill. He's trying to stick around because he wants to keep playing Superman. And God, I hope he does. But it's like, there's a lot to be said for, why they're doing that. And I think it's more than, it's more than a worthy cause, I think, for all of them at this point.
For sure.
But if we do see them come back and we see them reshoot and add elements with Selena Kyle, with Carla, and Ben Affleck, I have to admit, that would be a cool add.
That would be very, very cool. And what's really cool is we don't have that much longer, all things considering, to wait. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This year's...
We're supposed to get it in summer.
Yeah, this year's almost out, and before you know it, it's going to be Justice League summer.
I'm really hoping that they're able to keep to the schedule.
Yes. Well, again, like you said, there's people are shooting again, and the majority of the movie shot already, so most of it's just VFX.
But the industry as a whole took a huge setback.
Yeah.
Of 4 or 5 months this year before they were even able to get anything going again. So I'm hoping that with those setbacks that they are able to kind of still eke it out and we get it in the summer and it doesn't get pushed to fall or Christmas of next year.
I just can't wait for that to come out and then for us to talk about that here, because there's going to be it's going to be episodic. So we're going to do probably a weekly thing with the Mandalorian, because there's just going to be so much to talk about, and I am very, very excited.
Yeah, that one's going to be fun for sure. There's no way around it. And there's so many different aspects of it that are going to be interesting and speculative of like, okay, well, what is this going to mean? Is this going to change anything? What are they going to add that might give us a little, a hint at where things might be going on the big screen versus what they do on HBO Max? So there's definitely a lot to look forward to there.
For sure. But I think with that wraps up all of our topics for today.
That's right. There's a lot going on in the DC universe too, but we're not going to get that to get to that today.
That's going to be a hefty truck to unload.
Yeah, we're actually still talking about that. So for any of you that are wondering, you guys aren't going to mention what's going on in DC? Well, yes, we are. There's a lot going on in DC, including the recent firings, the second round of firings. So we're kind of weighing all of that out. We're piecing everything together on our end. And in the next podcast, I think we're going to have a lot to say about what's going on in DC.
Especially with Death Metal 5 releasing here pretty soon. I think that's going to be,
exactly.
Well, Scott Snyder himself said that's going to be very telling for the future of DC in 2021. So we shall find out.
Yeah. And if you're interested in seeing any of the intermediate stuff, I guess you'd say, we released an episode on the Rise of the New God just this past week. So you can check that out on our main YouTube page.
Indeed. But with that said, we'll see you guys next time when we talk about all things comics.